what this ruling means is that in Egypt, journalism is a crime. The court found these three journalists guilty, giving Mohamed, Fahmy, and Peter Greste 7 years in prison, and Beher Mohamed as well, and adding a 3-year prison sentence onto Beher Mohamed for possessing an empty shell casing of a bullet, which he said was a souvenir, and so he has 10 years in prison. It was a really difficult time in the court today when the verdicts were read out. The family members were weeping, fellow colleagues, journalists were weeping. Mohamed Fahmy was pulled away, had to be hauled away by the police in the court as he was trying to shout to the two journalists and respond to this outrageous verdict. Peter Greste said nothing. He simply held up a closed fist in the air, and Beher Mohamed was shaking his head. This is the little margin of freedom of expression and freedom of the press that has been continually shrinking in Egypt took a very heavy blow today. They are accused of, the prosecution has accused these three journalists of tarnishing Egypt's image abroad by portraying false scenes as Egypt undergoing a civil war to help a terrorist organization, which is the Muslim Brotherhood, which has been designated that. The prosecution throughout the trial did not show a shred of evidence of anything that comes close to that. Some of the evidence it showed even included stuff that had nothing to do at all with Egypt, including footage from Peter Greste in Somalia and Kenya, even shots of their parents and so forth. And so and essentially the court put journalism itself on trial. Many of the journalists today could have faced these same charges because they did nothing more than do their jobs. And Peter Greste himself was only in Egypt for a couple of weeks. And defense lawyers throughout the trial have asked the prosecution and the judge whether simply airing the views of an opposing voice is a crime in Egypt. And the sentence has put freedom of the press really a large step back in the country. And if you also, part of the prosecution's case rested on this technical report by 3 experts that went through all of the footage that was seized in the arrest of these 3 journalists. And during the trial, these expert witnesses denied they had any authority to judge whether these journalists endangered national security, and that contradicted the initial claims made to the prosecutor on which the entire case rests. So it's a very, very weak case. The Amnesty International observer blasted this case and said it'll have a very negative effect on freedom of the press in Egypt.